Hello, everyone, and welcome to the big one, the almost big one, penultimate round of the Super League regular season, where everything possibly could be decided and where excitement could be building. We will have to wait and see as the evening goes on what will happen. Uh, we had a lot of unanswered questions last week, and quite honestly, not a lot of them were answered. I mean, Churchtown looks nail on for first. They do only have a 5 point gap to Bolton, though, so that's obviously still all to play for. Vallen could still get second. Ardsley can still get second. Both teams could still end up in seventh. Very unlikely circumstances, but it's possible, I guess. Palmerthinaikos, Midlothian, Chudley and Aster all battling it out for the last playoff spots. We have Sloths who in a I don't know, they're very resurgent. Great run of form for them recently. Seen them up to ninth now. They've got an interesting game coming up tonight. They are away to BTEC, and they were down in the bottom along with BTEC earlier on this season. BTEC now on 27 points, so that's a big one there to see if BTEC can go back over Sloths in the table. We've got Hornets and Dragons. Dragons obviously with a big role to play tonight. They're involved in the playoff games somehow. When they play Midlothian at home, I believe it is. Dragons tonight, if I'm not much mistaken. Apart from that, it's going to be it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how things unfold this evening. Obviously, managers on the edge of their seat, hoping that the team can secure a promotion. But we'll have a look at the fixtures as they come tonight, as they are tonight, and we'll try and do them in an order to save the excitement for last. So I have done a bit of testing on it. It doesn't seem to crash the game at the moment. So so fingers crossed. Otherwise, there's going to be many of these recordings, but we'll see. This is the overall schedule for the evening. We're going to start off with Hooligans against Hoddesdon Hornets, so 13th against 10. Then we're going to move on to BTEC against Sloths and get those positional battles at near the bottom of the table out of the way first. Then we're going to see if Churchtown can secure their first place in the league, which they will if they beat Swindon. And then we have, obviously, of the games we have left, we are going to go with Aster first. Aster against Vallen United. And then we're going to go Dragons against Midlothian. Then we're going to go Chudley against Bolton, and then we're going to go Ardsley against Palmerthinaikos. I think that's going to be the run. If I lose track along the way, then then so be it. But that's how we think we're going to go with it. The results from last week, if we have a look at them quickly, obviously Aster put themselves back in the mix, or kept themselves in the mix by beating Ardsley. Bolton lost at home to Vallen United, a repeat of last year's final. We had Hoddesdon, who quite surprisingly beat Churchtown. Plenty of goals in Churchtown's games as always. In this case, it was for the opponents though. BTEC finding some form late on the season, much to the disappointment of Ian and Neil in the Midlothian camp and Greaves in the fan club. It's been a tough time for Midlothian recently, and obviously they're on 38 points, just 3 ahead of Chudley. It's a tricky situation to be in. They play Dragons tonight. We'll see how that goes. Dragons lost to Palmerthinaikos, who are back on form now. They are also on 38, same as Midlothian. They can also still be caught by both Chudley and Aster. But you know, in the same way, they have a very good goal difference. I think +10, which sets them apart from the other teams around them. Apart from Vallen, I think everyone else is fairly even in terms of their goal differences. Then we've got the Sloths. They beat Hooligans 1-0. As mentioned, Sloths doing a pretty decent job now. Too little, too late, obviously. Very, very inconsistent early on in the season. Struggled to get results, but Rob's got them playing some decent football now and grinding out a couple of results. And then finally, we had the Swindon Devils losing at home 4-1 to Chudley. Chudley, who were looking, maybe 5 or 6 games ago, they were looking nailed on to get into the playoffs with a very strong run they were on. Then they had a couple of stutters. That was that 0-0 at home to Hoddesdon Hornets. But now they're back on form, apparently. So we'll see how they do tonight. They obviously play Bolton at home, which is a tricky one. And then finally, we obviously got the last round to look forward to. We'll get back to this later on, but Midlothian against Ardsley, Aster against Chudley, Bolton play Churchtown in sort of what could be a preview of a later final or playoff game. There's definitely some very interesting lineups in the in the last round, and we've got Swindon playing Hooligans for something for the honour of winning the last game of the season between what presumably will be the bottom two teams. We'll see how Hooligans get on tonight, obviously. And we've actually got Hooligans coming up first. It's Hooligans at home to Hoddesdon Hornets, and we have just a couple of changes from each side, nothing too spectacular, and we'll see how this pans out. And thanks to friendly bit of advice from Ryan, this is how you get past it. So I kind of wish I'd known that a few weeks ago, or worked it out for myself anyway. So hold down the enter button, and all of your problems will disappear right in front of your eyes. In terms of Hooligans, we've got Taribo Westin. Should have swapped him with Saul Campbell. Forgot to do that. We have got Taribo Westin for Crosas. Otherwise, it's some of the new boys. Deco keeps his place. Dudu keeps his place. Kennedy still not doing anything, keeping his place. Olise and Emerton again, not the chairman's favourites, but they are keeping their places. Olise not too bad. Emerton disappointing considering his reputation, especially. Not much else to say about the Hooligans lineup. But hopefully for Thiago they will come good. It's a little bit, obviously it's not a little bit. It's very much too late in terms of getting into the playoffs this season. Hooligans on 24 points, 14 behind Midlothian in sixth place. So none of that for Hooligans this season, unfortunately. We'll see what happens next year with the boys from Brazil, if they can do better. They're up against Hoddesdon Hornets, who obviously have an Argentinian up front who's firing, or a previous Argentinian, Australian now, Gabriel Batistuta, who was firing on all cylinders. Got a couple of goals last time out against the league leaders, Churchtown. So he's been on form. He had that hat trick, I think it was, a couple of weeks ago as well. So he's been doing relatively well. We've got Sean Davies coming in for Dunn in midfield, and apart from that, pretty much unchanged, or well, completely unchanged to be honest. Shouldn't change too much after a 4-2 victory, obviously, and we'll see if Tristan and Tigaco and some of the guys is going to start piling in with some goals as well. I mean, there's a good result or two hiding somewhere in this Hornets side, but it's just not really worked out for Craig this season. He is on 29 points, still 9 points behind Midlothian. That's actually 3 wins. It doesn't sound like 9 points. Does it sound like much? It's 3 wins in the Super League, and 3 wins in the Super League is not something that comes around easily. So very interesting to see how Hoddesdon Hornets do here tonight. Obviously, they can move past Sloths, at least for the time being, and Hooligans obviously could in theory get past BTEC and try to catch up with Dragons, but all depending on other results this evening. Let's kick off the first half and see how Hooligans get on against the Hoddesdon Hornets. Oh, it's an early chance for Hoddesdon Hornets, and it's Davies who's come in for Dunn, who opens the scoring. 1-0 to Hornets after just 6 minutes. That's a bit of a blow for Hooligans, who perhaps hope that a home game here towards the end of the season could give the fans something to cheer about. And maybe they still can. Here's Deco with probably his first goal of the season. Oh, but it's soon back to a Hoddesdon lead. Batistuta converts the penalty that was given there for a foul on whoever it was. But it's Deco who's unstoppable tonight. Oh, and another penalty claim for Hoddesdon Hornets. It's all happening in the first half here. 2-2 so far. Penalty was turned down. Deco with a brace. Oh, and there's a red card for Deco. There's a red card for Deco there. This is not going to do Hooligans any favors at all. What a first half for Deco. 2 goals and a red card. Very much the man of the moment. The talking point of that first half. Yeah, breathless action from start to finish. Tigaco headed the ball down for Stone Davies for his first goal. Then we had Deco with an assist for Emerton for once. What happens then? Eto set up Tigaco in the area. Taribo West, who's only just come back, barged Tigaco down in the back, and obviously Batistuta converting the spot kick. What happened then? Deco scored. Spectacular effort set up by Ronaldinho, and then I believe Yeah, turned down the West. Oh, Tariba West again was turned down the penalty claim, and then for some reason Deco attacks even El Guerrero with 2 feet, and that obviously didn't end well. So a red card for Deco. Let's see, very very even first half, so perhaps a fair reflection, a 2-2 in terms of action zones. Hooligans have had the most of the ball. It's not necessarily been very effective all the time, but they have put in a decent shift. In terms of the individual players, not a lot going on in terms of passing. It's not been terrible. Tariba West very very involved, committing fouls all over the park and giving away penalties, etc. But still managing to pick up an 8. Deco obviously didn't do that much, but 2 shots, 2 on target, and 2 goals. So that was his contribution over, I guess. But a bit harsh for him to pick up a red there, I think. I mean, hacking down people is never nice, but still, a lot more passing going on for Hornets. 7s and 8s across the board. 5 for Frey and 8 for Tsigalko with the 2 assists. So a good steady first half for him. I thought it was. Oh yeah, maybe Tsigalko got both. Oh yeah, he was brought down for the penalty, wasn't he? So yeah, decent first half for Tsigalko. Still not scoring surprisingly, but maybe that'll come in the second half. They are obviously a man up, so who knows what will happen. They've definitely put the pressure on early on. Tsigalko is again getting involved, but Ronaldinho is not gonna take this line down, to be honest. So he's been popping up a few times, and there is Emerton after the chairman had a go at him. That's just how it goes. I think he was set up by Ronaldinho. Hooligans with only 13, with only 5 minutes to go now. Can they hold on to this? That would be a huge upset considering they're down to 10 men, and they absolutely can. It's up and down roller coaster for Hoddesdon Hornets. 4-2 against the league leaders last week, and 3-2 losers again against the 10-man 13th place side this week. They tried, but they just couldn't get through. Slightly better goalkeeping performance down the Hooligans end, apparently. And in terms of where the ball was played, I mean, Hooligans just having that little bit more possession. Maybe that's what made the difference for them. So yeah, anyway, let's see how that Brett Emerson goal came about. Loose ball. Okay, well, there you go. They all count. Ronaldinho with an assist. I did see his name pop up quite a few times in the second half, and he obviously does a good job. And yeah, it's just Kennedy that was feeling a little bit left alone after Deco went off. That's sitting on a 6. Everyone else doing a sterling job for Hooligans here. Tariba West especially. I mean, I know he was involved in a few controversial scenarios there, but good to see, and good to see that it can work. If as long as your opponent has 3 strikers, then playing with 3 DCs works really well, apparently. And they all got something to do, and they all score a relatively high, get a relatively high score, and get a shift put in there. Tariba West very very good in the air. In terms of the Hoddesdon players, they did okay, I guess. Batistuta letting the side down, and Eto as well in terms of efficiency with their shots. Apart from that, it's actually been a decent enough performance from the side. Even El Guerra putting in a strong performance there in that DMC role. Yeah, not much else to say about it really. A little bit unlucky that Frey lets those 2 goals in the first half, and then obviously the finishing in the second half let them down a little bit, and that's means that Hoddesdon will stay on 29 points. Hooligans go on 27, move level with BTEC. So yeah, interesting development at the bottom of the table here. It might not be 13th against 14th in the last game of the season when Hooligans take on Swindon. Anyway, interesting first game of the evening. We're going to move on, and we will see if we can get... yeah, it looks like it's going okay this time. We'll see if we can get BTEC up against Sloths up next. And this continues to work, so that's good. BTEC unchanged from last week. Obviously, Mr. Edwards very, very happy with his team's performance. I mean, it wasn't a huge victory, but 2-1 away against Midlothian is still a good result, obviously. And they think they were leading 2-0. Won't go into too much detail about criticizing the individual players. I think we had a go at Ardsley last week, and he obviously put in a great shift for them. Roberto Nakahawa It's a different proposition playing against the Sloths. Obviously, they play a different formation with different priorities than Midlothian. So no guarantees it'll work as well. But interesting to see Ian going very attacking here towards the end of the season after playing what I would describe as standard, at least for the Super League. Perhaps a little bit conservative, but definitely sort of standard Super League formations for a big part of the season in terms of positions, not sure in terms of instructions, but definitely in terms of position, he's kind of stuck to a meta of tried and tested, but gone outside of the box here towards the end of the season, and it certainly worked last week. So we'll see what comes up for BTEC this week in terms of results, and if the players can continue to enjoy the formation and get some goals. They're up against Sloths, who have a couple of changes. Some of them they had to make. Well, one they had to make. I think it's Yepes who's out, and Christian Burns comes in at the back. Diego Simeone is back for Michael Carrick, who actually had a really good game last time out. But Simeone comes back for him in central midfield. Then we've got Solari replacing Solis on the right-hand side. And finally, we've got Donovan and Joao Paiva. A striking partnership replacing Kessman and Crespo, who've fallen out of favour with the manager again. Not entirely sure why this time, but they definitely have fallen out of favour with the manager. So we'll see what Sloths can do tonight. Sloths obviously still sitting in ninth, as mentioned a couple of times already. 30 points. Can't really do anything. I mean, they can win the last two and hope that Aster and Chudley lose theirs, and then they'll finish seventh, which isn't no good to anyone, but at least it'll look impressive. And on the other side, obviously, we have a BTEC who could go on 30 points, who could go level with Sloths with a win here tonight. So all to play for both sides in terms of honor and in terms of positions and near the in the bottom half of the table. But we'll see. Can BTEC continue the good form, or will Sloths continue to impress in their resurgence, if we can call it that, here in the second half of the season? It's a good start for Joao Paiva for Sloths, 4 minutes in, and they're already 1-0 up. But Emerson hits straight back, it's 1-1. Emerson, a guy who's not really been at his best this season, but it looks as if BTEC have started to get a little bit out of him. And now, obviously, we have some MCs who play best alone, and some of them who likes to have a guy next to them for whatever reason. I think Mark Kerr is one of those who plays best alone. Either way. Oh, it's Patsasoglu with the goal for Sloths. Obviously, the attack information not really paying off for BTEC, although having said that, Agahawa just scored, but it was disallowed, and that brings us up to half time with the Sloths leading 2-1 away from home at BTEC. It's a poor night for the keepers, I would say. Well, a poor night for Buffon anyway. There's two shots from Sloths, and both of them have gone in. BTEC has had, three from Sloths, and two of them have gone in. BTEC have had one, and two, and one of them have gone in. So poor night for the keepers, probably especially for Buffon. Possession-wise, Sloths just edging it in terms of the actual percentages where the ball has been played, pretty much evenly. It was Damien Duff who centered the ball in Paiva with the header. Perhaps a little bit surprising that he's getting headed goals against Rio Ferdinand and Alessandro Nesta, but there we go. Speculative effort from Emerson, equalized for BTEC, and then we had Patsasoglu, a pass from Joao Paiva. Patsasoglu found himself free in the penalty area, and an easy goal for him. And then I think it was Agahawa who outjumped the goalkeeper, scored for BTEC, but the goal was ruled out for offside. It's not even windy, as Alf usually points out when these things happen without jumping the keeper. So a slightly different one today. Either way, Buffon somehow gets a 7 for his efforts in the first half. Everyone doing okay. This is standard BTEC. Decent performance from all the players. No one really stands out as being poor. I will say Milevski only winning 2 out of 8 tackles is not ideal. And the central defenders are doing okay, apparently. I'm not sure who was picking up Paiva, because they both won both of their headers. So can't have been him, any of these guys, Nesta and Ferdinand, that were meant to pick him up when he scored on that one. Abel Savia doing well. Kieran Dyer doing okay. It's 2 goals from 3 shots. it's difficult to put your finger on what's gone wrong. I mean, apart from obviously Buffon, but he seems to be getting a 7. We've got Martin Palermo not doing particularly well. Pizarro, they've just not been at the races for BTEC this season. Unfortunately, the strikers they're nowhere near the kind of 15, 16, 17 goals that the strikers, the top strikers for the top teams have. So that's probably one of the bigger differences. Emerson in midfield, doing okay, getting a goal, not doing much in terms of tackling, which is perhaps disappointing. From a Sloths perspective, it's yeah, it's a little bit hit and miss. There's some good guys and some bad guys in there. Verns and Simeone both on a yellow now. That could be a tricky one in the second half. Taibbi not doing brilliantly in goal either. Ndiaye, Duff doing very, very well. Patsasoglu obviously with the goal. That's a good one for him. Andres D'Alessandro again disappointing in that AMC role. I think he's better if he plays with someone next to him or maybe further out on the right. My success in my experience, he's more successful next to someone, but he's someone who's difficult to get to work. I think a little bit like Danielson, maybe one of them that can be absolutely brilliant, but can also be a disappointing waste of money. Solari comes in and does a good job. Giovanni van Bronckhorst, whose name is missing for whatever reason. Joao Paiva, obviously with an assist and a goal, had a very, very good first half. And Landon Donovan, a little bit anonymous, but all to play for in the second half for him. So let's see if BTEC can find a way back in, or if Sloths are going to hold on to this one. Good start for Sloths, creating a couple of chances in your first couple of minutes in the second half, but BTEC are hitting straight back, and Palermo, after being slacked off by the chairman, is obviously straight back into the goals, equalising for BTEC there with 53 minutes on the clock. 30 minutes left to play, and it's Landon Donovan who puts Somerset Sloths ahead 3-2. The goals are flying in. D'Alessandro, also slacked off by the chairman, gets in on the action here. 4-2 for Sloths. Can BTEC get a consolation, maybe even an equaliser? They need to start scoring now then. It doesn't look like it. Chances for both sides though. Oh, and it's another howler for Buffon. He berates his defense. He blames his defense. I'm sure it said that he dropped the ball or he couldn't hold on to it. It's 5 for Sloths as BTEC's attacking lineup failed to deliver. Yeah, low save percentage from the keepers, probably around 50% for both of them. Not ideal, but Sloths obviously creating more chances and also being more effective with them. In terms of where the football was played, Sloths have slightly more of the possession. It's completely sort of even Stevens. They just have more chances basically. So let's see what happened in the second half. I believe that we first had a good was it a cross, Agahawa with the corner, and Palermo jumped above in the eye, headed the ball in, found the net. 5th goal of the season, not enough. And that obviously put BTEC level, and then it all went downhill from there. We had Solari squaring the ball to Landon Donovan. We had Solari put in a cross to D'Alessandro. That's the danger of playing without any kind of like wing backs or wide midfielders or anything like that. You're leaving yourself open to, if the opponent has very, very good players in those positions or players who have a very good day in those positions, then it's then you're in for a bad time. And obviously it just went a little bit. Buffon let the ball run free. That's not how it works, Buffon, unfortunately. Let's see what he's rewarded with. A 7, that's great. Letting 5 goals in on 9 shots. A completely gifted one, the last one, so he still gets a 7, so that sounds fair. So Roberto didn't really have much to do. I think they end up on, maybe he ended up on the wrong side of the right-sided winger from Sloths, so not a good performance from him. Agahawa obviously getting an assist from the corner there. Milevski had an assist in the first half. Nesta, I don't know. Maybe Joao Paiva is just too strong. Maybe that's the problem. Either way, he gets a 6. Very, very poor passing. Rio Ferdinand did okay. I'm not sure how or why when you concede 5, but we'll leave it at that. Kieran Dyer, Abel Savia, okay, but nothing too spectacular. No key passes really. So Roberto's the one with the key passes, but nothing to show for it in terms of his rating. Palermo, Pizarro, completely anonymous, unfortunately. Emerson played a little bit better, but look at the pass percentage from some of these players. Emerson, Kieran Dyer. It's not ideal. It's difficult to it's easy to criticize and it's difficult to fix, but that's not gone well at all. If we look at the Sloths' performance instead, so Solari, obviously man of the match, his 2 assists, very, very influential player. Patsasoglu with the goal, De Alessandro got a goal. Um, Again, maybe not so much of a difference in terms of the performance of the individual players if we look at the pass completed. What I will say is NDI obviously a complete monster in in defence, getting the tackles in and getting the job done. Christian Vern's doing a decent job. Simeone coming in and doing an okay job as well, but it was really all about the goals. Joao Paiva got one, Donovan got one. There was just really they didn't really have an answer to the wing play of Solari and Duff. So that's just how it goes. Sometimes you take a chance and you play narrow against an effective wide formation, and if you can overpower them, then you've got the numerical advantage in the center of the park, and if you can't, then you leave yourself open to Solari and to Duff and to people getting in crosses. So a big win for Sloths, and that moves them to, I believe, 33 points. BTEC stay on 27, level on points with Hooligans, and this result won't have done their goal difference any favor. We'll see at the end of the night if it means that Hooligans can move above them. I'm not 100% sure that will happen, but we'll see when we get there. Next up, we have top of the table Churchtown. So let's see if we can pick up Churchtown here. We can, with a couple of changes in terms of the lineup, but I think Swindon has as well. So this will be an interesting one to see how this one plays out. Let's see. Here we've got Churchtown. So yeah, it's a reserve side for Churchtown. There's no doubt about it. It's Chilavert in goal. It's Sylvester at the back. We've got Belletti, Davidson, Tudor, Cahill, Hersey, Shuaibu, Everton, Romeo, Mackay. I mean, some of them are regular starters. I mean, Mackay has played many games for them, and so has Davids, and Romeo obviously as well, good player. But yeah, it's definitely a reserve side for Churchtown. They obviously feel confident enough that they're gonna pick up the 3 points here. That'll take them to 51. There's no way Bolton can catch them then, regardless of their result later on this evening. And even with a draw, if they only get a draw, I mean they're on 49 with Bolton still with 2 tricky games to play. So including the Churchtown game I think they play in the last round, don't they? I think Bolton played Churchtown in the last round, so could all be decided there. But Kieran obviously confident that he'll get the result tonight and see himself through to a first place regular season finish. But we'll see. It's a lot of unknown faces in the Super League, and Swindon have got a new formation for this particular evening. Is it a candle? Is it what does it resemble? I don't know. Some type of plug perhaps, or an ice lolly, who knows. Either way, I'll let the comment section decide what this should be named as. Either way, it's an interesting formation, and there's definitely interesting players in there. He's gone with Kluivert, Ronaldo, Zidane, Oliveira, Ebiede, Foe and Mills are in there as well, and then we've got the back 3 of Montero, Ehiok and Mendes. And as we saw earlier this evening, 3 defenders against 3 strikers is usually a good idea. So there's definitely some method in here with Fifey perhaps predicting that Kieran was going to go ultra attacking and then lining up with 3 at the back to kind of counter that, and then keeping it narrow down through the middle in the hope of being able to create something themselves. It'll be interesting to see if Kluivert, Ronaldo, Zidane, that trio up there can create something against Churchtown tonight. As mentioned, not a lot to play for Swindon. With Hooligans winning tonight, that confirms Swindon will finish in 14th place. So it's really all about the goals for Swindon tonight. Can they improve on their goal tally? Maybe pick up another point or 2, a win or even a draw? We'll see. Churchtown, their B side is out. They're looking for an easy night's work, but will they get it against Swindon? We'll just have to find out. They had that 4-2 defeat last time out against Hoddesdon Hornets, obviously Churchtown, so they are in the best of form at the moment. They had a good first half performance, but then completely fell away in the second half. Perhaps players mentally on holiday, knowing that they had that red Q next to their name. It's Romeo who opens the scoring for Churchtown. As I was saying, maybe they are already mentally preparing themselves for the playoffs. A couple of good chances for Swindon here, to be honest. By no means outplayed, but it is Churchtown who take a lead into the halftime break. So just 6 shots for Churchtown, 3 for Swindon. there's not as much in it as you would expect from first versus 14th. With I mean, there's 30 points between them in the table, 10 wins really between the two sides in the table. 60 goals scored for Churchtown, 21 for Swindon. You would have perhaps predicted a slightly bigger difference in terms of the action, but Churchtown doing a fairly solid job so far at home, but Swindon definitely not out of it. They're not having a lot of possession though, which is a bit of a concern, but they have created a couple of chances. Let's see how the goal came about. It was I mean, a decent save from Carroll. Romeo ultimately collected the loose ball and was there to apply the finish, as it says. Let's have a look at the individual player stats. Chilabert, fairly solid in goal so far. He gets an 8. Obviously, I think Kieran's hoping he gets a penalty or something, and maybe he can put away and have a goalkeeper, the top scoring goalkeeper in the league. We'll see if that happens. Apart from that, it looks pretty good. Everton, the record signing, perhaps, certainly an expensive signing for the club, has not really done a huge amount since arriving. I think maybe getting sent off. I think one of his first games, or injured or something like that. Anyway. Not overly impressive by anyone. Sylvester doing a good job as a one at the back kind of guy in this Palmer-esque. It's not really a Palmer formation because there's no wide players on it, but either way, one at the back. Shuaibu, another signing. He's done okay, I guess. Edgar Davids running the show in the DMC role. These guys are obviously playing in the hope for getting a squad number for the upcoming playoff games. But on the face of it, I mean, wouldn't really say there's anyone. Romeo and Sylvester are probably in there anyway, so is Davids, and everyone else has not really impressed so far. Let's have a look at the Swindon side. Montero, obviously, best player of the season for Swindon. Good in the way that he's the best player of the season, bad in the way that he's always very, very busy. He's always doing a bunch of tackles, and that's obviously because he has to. Montero, Mendes, Ehiok, yeah, it is working the 3 defenders up against the 3 attackers, and that's obviously keeping Swindon in it to some extent. But they do need a better return from their strikers. We have Ronaldo, we have Kluivert not even having a shot. Zidane and Ronaldo doing their best. A couple of key passes in there, and they are trying, but it's obviously difficult with the morale and being up against the league leaders. It's always going to be a tough challenge. We'll kick off the second half. We'll see if Churchtown can hold on or if they'll collapse like they did last week against Hornets. That's obviously an opportunity for Swindon there, but an early goal maybe. We'll see. They definitely had the chances for it. They still have the chances for it. 2 or 3 big chances, I think, there in the beginning of the second half for Swindon Devils, and should have perhaps converted one of them if they wanted to have a realistic chance of giving it a go. But Churchtown haven't scored yet, so there's still all to play for. They can still snatch a draw, perhaps even a win, if they get a couple of good chances here at the end. Kluivert trying his best. Chilabert getting the parries and the saves in. And then it's up the other end. Churchtown with a couple of good chances themselves. Swindon continue to impress, and that's Cahill picking up a red card there. Not sure if there's much need to do anything. Maybe do a little arrow on Davids just to cover that midfield role there. It's Montero, I think, with a header from the free kick. Oh, Shuaibu, very, very, very lucky there, pushing his opponent, picking up just a yellow card. That could have been a red. Churchtown still in it. They could still win it. They're still creating chances. Edgar Davids picking up an injury. This is really not working out the way that the the way that the Churchtown manager would have envisioned this. It's a valuable point for Swindon Devils and a strong performance from them. They created a lot in the second half, and Roy Carroll obviously with a great performance in goal, keeping them in it there. Yeah, I mean, they're leaving a lot of the possession to the opposition, but they did good. I mean, Fifey said before the match that they weren't going to create any chances. They've had 10 shots. I mean, fair enough, only 4 of them on target, but they've created 10 chances with this formation, and they've got a draw against the league leaders who moved to 49. And with their goal difference, I don't think it's enough to secure it. Bolton Phoenix could still win the last 2 and finish in first place, so that's interesting. But yeah, a bit of a run out for the reserves here for Churchtown that didn't really go to plan. Tim Cahill picking up a red. He's obviously not needed. Shuaibu probably won't feature again. Sylvester, will we see him again? He got a yellow. Belletti did okay. Tudor did okay. In the end, there was a pretty decent pretty decent performance from the defensive players here. The big problem is that Edgar Davids has picked up an injury. It's only 52 fitness, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, so he could probably be back for the playoffs. Yeah, there's nothing really from Mackay, Everton, Shuaibu. They've not really got anything to offer. We'll see, no doubt, see Robin, Van Nistelrooy, Henrik Larsson. We'll see the big names back for the final match against Bolton, probably, unless they've already secured the first place by that stage. Kieran might rest them again. Who knows? Chilavert didn't get his goal, but he put in a half decent performance. I mean, saved one of Swindon's 4 shots, so that was okay, I guess. Much better performance by the keeper down the other end. Roy Carroll getting a 10. Montero, absolutely player of the season for Swindon Devils, getting another 10. Inspired signing from Vallen United there for I think it was for Swindon Devils. Patrick Kluivert a little bit on his own. Perhaps a little bit isolated. Maybe that's the only downfall of this tactic in terms of how it worked out. Oliveira could have put in a better performance as well, but apart from that, I mean, there's a few key passes. Again, bearing in mind who he's playing against, there's a few key passes in here. There's no width, so he doesn't have to worry about the things that Ian had problems with in the Sloths game. And yeah, just an overall very, very solid performance from at least half of the squad. A shame perhaps that Ronaldo couldn't have been a little bit more effective. Kluivert never really he had a couple of headers, but never really got in there. Yeah, maybe something to think about, how to get the ball more to Kluivert, but it's, that'll come at the expense of something else. At least the creativity that was there, at least there was 10 shots on target, or 10 shots in total for Swindon tonight. And a strong goalkeeping performance and strong defensive performance from Montero as well. Swindon moved to 19 points. Churchtown, as mentioned, moved to 49. And we move on with our next game, which is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, is it Vallen against Aster we've got coming up next? I believe so. Yes, we've got Vallen against Aster up next. And that's one that's been selected, so that was lucky. Let's have a look. We'll fly through this. Once again, thanks very much to Ryan for teaching me how to save my finger. Lucky me. Yeah, what else can we say about this game? Vallen and Aster Athletic, the two narrow sides, they've played each other on obviously multiple occasions, and they don't seem to deviate when they play each other. No one blinks in this poker game. They stay narrow. So we've got Vallen's formation here. A couple of changes enforced. I think Totti, is suspended. Keane is suspended. So we've got Jeremies coming in and Nakata coming in. We've got Fiore and Reed in central midfield for Vallen United. Worked out well for them, obviously, when they played Bolton Phoenix last time out. So why change that? Saviola comes back in for Saha, and apart from that, it's as you were for Vallen. Strong side. Lasisi and Ayala at the back. Toldo in goal. Those 3 DMCs, Lizarazu and Cafu. Cafu not as influential as he was last season, but still very, very strong. Fiore and Reed and Nakata. So that kind of triangle. I think Vallen have struggled a little bit with that. Andreas has tried various kind of sort of lineups. He's tried to play more people up front. He's gone back to the narrow formation, which seems to be the one that gets him the best results. Obviously, a victory tonight will take him to 43 and level with Bolton Phoenix before their game later on this evening with Chudley and yeah, Vallen, one of the few teams with a goal difference to equal Bolton Phoenix actually. So that could be interesting. They obviously have a last round game against Palmerthinaikos coming up, Vallen United, which is perhaps on paper a tiny bit easier than Bolton's last round game against Churchtown, but we'll see how that plays out as we get to the last round. Some decent players in here, some decent players on display. We're missing Totti, we're missing Keane, but still a very strong Vallen side. They're up against Aster, who've changed it up. So Alf, from never ever changing his tactic, Alf is now changing on a regular basis. As I was going to say, as often as some people change their underwear, but considering we only play once a week, it's perhaps not a perfect analogy. He's got I believe that's incorrect. I think those two should swap. I will have to double check that, obviously. I think Mild goes in the middle, but I will double check that. In terms of Vogel should be left DM, Mild center DM. Yep. So we'll just do that. In terms of the lineup, Materazzi, Giuliano, Vogel, Mild, they are the same as last time out. He had obviously that decent game against Ardsley Celtic. Rui Costa and Boya and Bruging, that's moved around a little bit. Obviously, he now plays with an AMC role, and we'll see how that works. Getting Bruging in amongst the goals. I think Bruging was meant to start, but I made a bit of a boo-boo and put Nicolau in, and Nicolau then obviously got him the winner there. Guillaume also plays. They were swapped around last time, but interesting to see how Alf changes things up, and obviously it's kind of working out all right for him. If he wins tonight, he'll be on 37, just 1 point behind Palmerthinaikos and Midlothian, and very much in with a shout of getting into the playoffs, depending on the results, obviously. But we start with this one and see if Aster can keep up the pressure. Obviously, a defeat for them tonight means it's curtains. 34 points with 4 points up to the playoffs. That will be it for them, and it's a tricky one. Vallen United, obviously last season's finalist. We'll kick off the first half and we'll see who comes out on top. Oof, early goal disallowed for Saviola there for Vallen United. I thought they'd gone in front, and it's Rui Costa, previously of Vallen United, who puts Aster Athletic 1 goal up. That's an interesting development after that early disallowed goal for Saviola. Vallen United continuing to create chances by the looks of it, but not getting much in way of goals. And Aster looking very dangerous on the counter, and now they're taking over a little bit in terms of possession. And it's Rui Costa with his second of the night. Aster 2-0 up. Who had seen that one coming? Let's have a look. Very even, as I think a lot of the games between these two sides are, but it's Aster who's managed to convert their chances, and Vallen obviously with the goal disallowed for Saviola. That's a really big game for Aster now. If they can hold on to this, then they're definitely in with a shout of the playoffs, depending on the results later on this evening. Alf will be watching this nervously, getting ready for the second half and see what his team can come up with. Let's check the action zones. There's not been a lot down in the Aster half, so manager will be very pleased with that. Andreas disappointed with his team's performance in the first half. It was Lee Boyer who set up Rui Costa for this one, and it was Vogel who set up Rui Costa for the second. Very strong performance from the ex-Vallen United player there. Looking at the stats for the Vallen United players, Toldo's perhaps surprisingly picking up a 7 with conceding those 2 goals. We've got Kafuli, Sarasu, they're all doing okay. Ayala a little bit surprising, only picking up a 6. He's normally much better. And then we get into the midfield where things aren't going well. It has been the problem for Vallen probably throughout the 2 seasons that Fiora, Reed, and those 2 MCs, they're just not really delivering. Nakata, where Totti has struggled. Sometimes he's been good, sometimes he's been iffy. Tonight it's 6s all round for these guys, and it's just not good enough if Vallen want to put the pressure on Bolton for that second place. It looks as if the Swedes could be headed for 2 rounds of playoffs here. Their goal difference obviously probably a little bit too good for them to slip into 7th if it comes down to points. If 40 is the limit, they could obviously theoretically stay on that, but their goal difference is the best amongst the teams in the league that are in danger of that. Not much else to say, really. We've already seen where the assists came from. We already know that they managed to keep a clean sheet, so good performance from Lehmann. Zanetti, Mild, Materazzi, Giuliano and Vogel solid at the back. Lee Boyer and Rui Costa, and that's a big contrast here how well they're doing up against Vallen. Lee Boyer obviously getting an assist and Rui Costa getting a couple of goals. Bruging a little bit lost. I mean, I think in this position this could obviously change and make me look like an idiot in the second half, but 1 AMC against 3 DMCs I think is a bit of... I think we've seen it quite a few times in the league now that is going to be a struggle, and that's certainly the case tonight. Obviously, I'm waiting for that to change in the second half, but we'll see what happens. Again, it's just about taking your chances. 3 shots for each side. Aster 2 goals up. That's really as simple as it is. We'll see how Vallen copes in the second half as they kick this one off. Obviously had that early goal disallowed for Saviola, and there is Nakata with... Now we get a goal from central midfield from Vallen United as well. So 1-1, and this is not looking good for Aster. If Vallen start to come back into this, they are creating chances, but they have to put them away. Rui Costa. Oh, and it's Nicolau, and surely that must be enough. Nicolai getting the goal. Aster 3-1 up now against Vallen United. And Nicolai again, he has found some form right at the perfect time for Aster Athletic. A 4-1 lead away to Vallen United. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Obviously, Alf's tinkering here towards the end of the season really, really paying off for him. A 4-1 victory, very, very well deserved. Let's have a look at that. Well, I say well deserved. He obviously has a keeper who is having a much better day than Andreas did tonight. So, but very, very strong performance to have 9 shots, 7 of them at on target away to Vallen. That's a really great performance and a testament to the manager's work on the tactics for this game. Action zones, all the football's been playing down the Vallen end. You can't say anything other than that. That is how it's been going. And let's have a look at the goals in the second half, how they came about. A parry from Lehmann on a Shevchenko shot, and Nakata left with a simple finish. That was Vallen pulling one back, but then obviously it all went wrong for Vallen near the end. Zanetti with a cross, Nicolau so dominant in the air, scoring the header there for Aster Athletic, and again a cross came in from the left, this time from Guilherme, and again Nicolau in the air, very, very dominant. 2 headers for him, aerial domination, the name of the game for Aster. He normally relies on the older guys in the defense to provide the aerial domination, but on this occasion it was the young striker. Vallen United, in terms of performance, it looked solid at the back, but was it really? I mean, who lost the headers? Ayala lost one, Lesisiu lost one. Maybe they were the ones that the goals came from. Then we have Fiore, Reed, Shevchenko, Saviola. I mean, the less said about that, the better. Not sure what the solution is to this problem, but it is a problem for Vallen United, obviously. Getting the goals out of these guys, they should have more than one goal with 8 shots, 7 on target. Obviously, great performance from the Aster keeper, a bit of a champing here, but still, Saviola, he had that shot early on in the game, it was disallowed, and yeah, after that, just completely anonymous, which is so it's got to be a big disappointment, as they try to push for a repeat of last season's performance. Down the other end of the pitch, Johan Vogel getting a 10. We've got Lehmann on a 9, Zanetti on a 9. There's 8s and 9s all over the pitch. Materazzi, for some reason, getting a 6. I'm not entirely sure why. Not really that much in terms of headers. Yeah, it was the only 2 headers he won, Marius Nicolai. And yeah, brilliant performance from him. 2 goals there, 2 goals for Rui Costa. The assists coming from quite far down on the pitch, so that's interesting as well to see how that has worked out for them. I could have sworn that it said Guilherme crossed from the left on the last goal, but it looks as if he wasn't given that assist. But anyway, I could have read that wrong. It's not hugely important. He didn't get one, and obviously, I mean, 2 players with 2 goals and none of them getting a 10 and neither getting man of the match. That goes to Johan Vogel for his excellent defensive display as well. So yeah, strong performance from Aster Athletic. They moved to 37 points, still not enough to get into the playoffs. They obviously 38 is the amount that you need to sit there, but it means that yeah, that unless that I mean, mathematically, they are only 3 points behind Vallen United, and although their goal difference is a lot worse, they obviously, with a 20-goal win or something, could still get it. So yeah, Aster definitely theoretically still in it. We do still have Ardsley, we have Palmerthinaikos, we have Midlothian still to play tonight, and Chudley, obviously. So could all be about to change, but a great result. Alf has definitely done what he needed to do with his team and with his performance. And next up, we'll see if Chudley can do the same. So let's change over to Chudley, and they are playing Bolton Phoenix in an interesting clash. Obviously, Chudley have this new narrow formation, which is working well for them. I think, was it one change? I think it's Hupia coming in. I think that's maybe the only change, and then a couple of new faces on the bench. Esther Berea, Lee Chun So Shak. They obviously had a convincing 4-1 win last time out against Swindon Devils, and yeah, Rossini is in there. Lee Chun So, obviously such an important player for them, very, very important for them that he's here tonight. With a win here, they move on 38, which is obviously the same as Midlothian, but they are both teams are I think equal. I think they have 0 goal difference. Both of them have 0 goal difference, so it's really up to how they get on tonight. Palmerthinaikos plus 10. That's a clear advantage to them. But Midlothian could be overtaken depending on the result later on this evening if Chudley goes to 38. They will have to beat Bolton though, which probably isn't going to be easy, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Shithousery or good move, I don't know what you want to call it. Obviously, Ryan goes with exactly the same lineup as Chudley. It might work out for him. I'm saying it's part shithousery, and it's also part the fact that his wingers have not been working. Sinoni has not been doing as well as Sambrotto would have, and he's been missing Sinoni in the middle. And I think additionally he's got Oliver Dacour either suspended or injured, either way. So I think forced a little bit by circumstances, obviously, to keep it narrow, and knowing that Chudley, or guessing that Chudley were going to keep it narrow, he's obviously thought, oh, we'll just line up man for man and see how it goes. Stam and Neville at the back. Dede Keil Sinoni. We've got Veron in there as well. Raoul on that left hand side. That's not really worked out, but I'm not sure if he has any real options there. And Montella up top. Montella obviously still in with a shout for top scorer of the season. So yeah, just to reiterate, Churchtown are on 49, so Bolton can move to 46, 3 points behind them with a better goal difference, I think. So that would be good for them before they play they play each other on the last day of the season. Chudley, as mentioned, they are on 35. A win here will see them on 38, level on points with Palmerthinaikos and Midlothian, both of whom we'll see in action later on this evening. So, without further ado, we'll kick this one off. So this is our trio of big games coming up now. Chudley up against Bolton first, then we've got the Dragons against Midlothian, and we finish off with Ardsley against Palmerthinaikos. And by the end of these 3 games, hopefully we'll have hopefully we won't have any answers. Hopefully we'll have to wait to last week to get all the answers that we want in terms of the playoff spots. So we kick this one off and see how Chudley go. They're at home to Bolton Phoenix, who line up in a very, very similar formation. We'll see if Andre can keep the Montella out. Obviously, Andre probably the keeper of the second half of the season, and Montella one of the strikers of the season. So an interesting matchup there. So far, it looks as if Bolton have had a slightly better number of chances, I would say. But it's the Berea who opens the scoring for Chudley Cannons, 1-0 for the home side. Very, very tense. And there's Figo with the pull to go, tries to pull to equalize, or he does equalize, but it's ruled out. Yeah, nervous moments there for Chudley Cannon as Figo had the ball in the net, but ultimately ruled out for offside. Obviously, we'll have a look at halftime and see what happened there. Big chances for both sides, lots of them, and big chances for both sides. I say lots, I mean it certainly seemed that way. 5 shots, 4 on target for Chudley and 4 and 3 for Bolton. So very, very even, as the equal formations perhaps would have suggested that that's what's going to happen. However, in terms of possession, it's all about Chudley. They're definitely doing the better in keeping hold of the ball. Let's see what happens in terms of the goals there. We had Lee Chun-so. I think it's his first assist of the season, but he's had so many goals, but now he's chipping in with assists as well. Literally chipped the ball in the penalty area towards Esther Berea, who found himself with plenty of time, and a good goal for him. Figo with the free kick. Where was this? There was a goal disallowed. I could have sworn. Oh, here we go. Figo moved the ball forward, bore the ball inside the box. It was ruled out. Figo had straight in an offside position. That's quite a lot earlier on, but never mind. We'll take it. We'll take it as a legit decision by the referee. Hupia picks up a yellow. He's only on a 6, struggling a little bit. It's always a bit of a problem when you've got that back 2 against the front 1, but I guess it's the same for both sides. Rossini not coping well on his own up against Stam and Neville there, not doing a particularly good job. Liverani, very, very little he's seen of the ball. mostly been passed around the back, really. Hippier, Rocket Jr., Bauma, and Mark Kerr, obviously. Seen a lot of the ball and then sort of bypassing the midfield a little bit, and Lee Chun-so, Carlos Shacks, and Estebaria to some extent getting in on the action. Poor from Estebaria, but he is the man with the goal, so you can't blame him for that. Let's have a look at the Bolton Phoenix stats. It's not gone well for them. Raul, as mentioned, I'm not a fan of him in this at all. Really, not a fan of him in that position, and it's not worked out in the first half. Obviously, things can completely turn around in the second, so I'll try not to be too critical of any of these players. Poor passing from Figo. It becomes a little bit sort of like lumped up in the middle of the park with 22 players utilizing roughly about 60% of the pitch. Then it can become a little bit difficult, I guess, to find space for your passes. But still, I mean, 70 and 65 is not horrendous, but it's not great either. Bolton not doing well in the air, by the way, and Montella finding himself perhaps not as isolated as Rossini, but with similar low amount of output. Yeah, but Bolton Phoenix can improve definitely in the second half. Chudley, you get the impression that Chudley are holding, although they're one goal up, I get the impression they're holding on a little bit. And if Bolton can pick up the pace in the second half, then perhaps they can turn it around. But they will need that spark and that goal, obviously. And Chudley are a strong side. Chudley are a strong side, I will say that, and hopefully not jinx it completely for the manager. Chudley hit the crossbar there early on in the second half. Not sure who it was, but it definitely looked as if it was a shot off the crossbar. Andre with a save. Bolton continuing to create. Will create without scoring so far. But there is Sinoni. I think it was Figo who set him up. And then there's a question if that opens the floodgates for them. I still get the impression Bolton have the more dangerous chances, and Chudley are kind of countering a little bit. They had so much possession, Chudley, but they've just not. It's been in the wrong areas apparently. But let's see if they can do it right here at the end. There was an offside decision in there, and nothing else comes of it. So a very, very tense affair here. Chudley moved to 36 points. They're 1 point behind Aster now, 2 points behind Midlothian and Palmerthinaikos, and obviously means they can't reach Vallen on the 40 points, which probably wasn't going to be relevant anyway. But they are now 2 points behind Palmerthinaikos and Midlothian, who we're about to see in action. Bolton Phoenix only picks up 1 point. You all know what that means. That means that Churchtown Massive and Kieran can now be crowned and congratulated as regular season champions. Churchtown have secured first spot. They can no longer be caught. They are on 49, Bolton Phoenix on 44. So well done to Kieran and the boys there. Let's have a look at the action zones. So yeah, it was a lot more even in the second half. All of it played down in the middle of the park. Yeah, not much to say about that really. Let's see how the goal came about. Yeah, it was Figo with a short pass into the 6-yard box, and Sinoni with a header, ultimately putting. Yeah, I was not saying putting pay to the dreams of Chudley Cannons of a playoff spot, but certainly putting a dent in their chances of that. Let's have a look at the stats. Andre doing was it that bad? Oh. Andre doing a very, very good job in goal there, keeping it to 1. Rocket Jr., Bauma, Mark Kerr. Van Bommel disappointing down there. Would it have been better to keep him in the central midfield position? Maybe put Liverani down there. Would that have worked out a little bit better? I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, as they say, but difficult one. I think the manager has done a superb job in the second half of the season, getting the team to where they are, and yeah, it's a shame if it's going to end tonight, obviously, but we'll see. It could hopefully. I'm hoping that it'll all live on to the last night, obviously, and we'll have it all to play for then. Carlos Shack had a couple of good games, falling off a little bit. Lee Chun-so obviously getting in on the action with an assist. Estebaria doing a good job, but yeah, solid defense and just failing a little bit there. Van Bommel, Liverani, and in the end, Shax and Rossini just not able to provide the finishing touches or to the painting of Chudley Cannon's playoffs dreams. Bolton Phoenix, good job by Rob Douglas in goal. Good job by Gary Neville. Sinoni doing a good job. Kale okay. Stam. Figo playing up and getting a 9 with that assist. Perhaps a little bit generous, considering that he didn't complete that higher pass percentage and didn't have any good tackles. Had 3 shots on goal, I guess, and an assist. That always counts. Montella 2 shots. None of them went in. He did what he could, I guess. Harry Kewell not having any joy in that position at all. Harry Kewell doing a little bit better in the middle. Solid performance from Bolton. Phoenix probably will have to do better if they are going to repeat their success from last season. We'll see. Will Sambrata be back? I can't remember. Is he going to stick with his formation? Unlikely, I think, Ryan. But we'll see. Either way, Bolton are on 44. Vallen are on 40 odds. Well, no, I guess they could still, in theory, be caught. We'll leave that until the end. We'll leave the speculation till the end. We've obviously got 2 games left to play. First up, we've got Dragons. Let's have a look. We have Dragons against Midlothian. Flying past this bit. Dragon Destroyers. Curtis keeps his spot. He's done well. I think those 2 guys need to swap places. Did I have this wrong last week as well? I'll probably have a quick double check of that. But yeah, Dragons. What can we say about Dragons that hasn't been said already? It's been an up and down season for them. It's no secret that the chairman is always bagging Dragons a little bit, and I won't say I'm disappointed that they haven't done any better, because that would be unfair to the other teams in the league. But I do believe there's a decent side in there somewhere. It's just not come out, and I don't know if it's the squad. I don't know if it's because the players were too young. If Brosek was too young, I'm not sure what the reason behind this was, but I think this makes sense anyway. Let's see. Yeah, he's definitely right. Guardiola. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. It's been a long season for Dragons. It was a long season last year. It's been a long season this one. They've not been near the playoff spots really. They had such a terrible start to the season, which really kind of ruined them for them. 54 goals conceded, probably 40 of them in the first 5 games when the management situation was a little bit up in the air. They tried a different tactic. They had some players in that absolutely do not belong in the Super League, and unfortunately they paid the price for that. So yeah. They are 9 points behind the Midlothian in that 6th place. So it's a question of whether those 9 games. It's a shame if you lose those 9 games in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. You throw away 9, 10, 11, 12 points, and then you sit here. You play through the rest of the season, and you're thinking of what could have been. But anyway, Dragon Destroyers tonight. They can go on 32 points. They can leapfrog a couple of guys if they get a win tonight, and more importantly, they can obviously put a dent in Midlothian's playoff dreams. On the other hand, if Midlothian win tonight, they go on 41 points. That'll be them sort of home and dry-ish, because I think Aster's on 37, aren't they? And no, they will be home and dry. I think 41. Yeah, home and dry if they win this one. Home and dry if they win this one. We shall see. We'll kick off the first half shortly. We'll just have a quick look at Midlothian's formation. It's obviously Vieri, Comandini and Pensa up front. Archie back behind them. Then there's a gap down to central midfield. And then we've got Carlos, Addo, Gattuso, Dulash, Hofland, Klombe and Given is back in goal. So hopefully they can, Given being back in goal will give the players a little bit of confidence that they were perhaps missing with Hetman in there. They obviously had that disappointing 2-1 defeat at home to BTEC last time out. They had, I think both Midlothian and Ardsley, Vallen, I think a lot of these teams were obviously counting on having that red Q next to their name like for weeks now, and it's just not been happening for them. Dragons disappointing 1-0 defeat to Palmerthinaikos as well. Can they do better at home? We will see. We will see if Brosek, if Keane, if Giggs, if all the boys turn up. Dragons are definitely going to be favourites for this one, given Midlothian's recent form. But Midlothian have a very strong squad. Obviously, the manager has put a lot of thought into this during the week, his tactics and his lineup, and we'll see how they go. First half about to kick off. And let's see, it's Alan Shearer with the opener for Dragon Destroyers, and Robbie Keane straight in after. I did mention it. If the guys turn up for Dragons, then there is definitely all to play for them. Guardiola picks up a red card and possibly spoils the party. Formation still looking okay. We'll keep it like that. 4 at the back against 3 attackers from Midlothian, so it'll probably still be okay. Midlothian getting into it a little bit more after that. Guardiola sending off, obviously. 3 shots, 3 in target. I'm not sure what's happening with the tactic. I'm not sure if the manager or the assistant manager, if they are amending an existing tactic or what they're doing to it, but it's not working. Whatever it is they're doing, it's not working. It could obviously completely turn on its head in the second half, but I think I don't know what thought process is there. Perhaps start from scratch. Perhaps just revert to an old formation that games have been won with before. I don't know what the solution is. We'll see in the second half what happens. They could obviously change. Let's have a look here. It was Kalatze who passed the ball into Shearer, who went Plas and scored, and then Robbie Keane did some stuff. Shearer found him and he scored. So not a hugely eventful first half, apart from the 2 goals and Guardiola hacking down Roberto Carlos. So that was it. Maybe a bit of a Barcelona Real Madrid grudge thing going on there. In terms of performance, solid by Dragons. The assist was from Shearer and Kalatze, obviously. Not from Giggs, who's usually the assist guy or the go-to guy for assists. Simon Davies doing well, Giggs, Rustico, and John Curtis. They did relatively well last time out, so manager's gone for them again. Palmerthinaikos doing an okay job. Guardiola was doing okay. I mean, actually doing pretty well. 11-11, 2-2 until he got sent off. Robbie Keane has been good for them. Shearer as well. Brosek, not so much. We've not seen much of him. He kind of comes and goes more at the moment. Kalatze, very, very influential there. Lots of passes for him and an assist. From Midlothian, a terrible return to the first team for Given. Poor performance by Klumpe. Well, poor performance everywhere, really, in terms of back. I don't know. I don't know what to say really about Arik back. He's been very, very good early on this season, but he's dropped off in terms of form. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. Christian Vieri, again. I'm not sure where the goals are coming from with the form that these players are in, but as mentioned, second half could prove me completely wrong. And Pence has been quite involved. Obviously, they do have a little bit more space now with the 3 up front against the back 2 and the 2 DMCs of Dragons. So let's see if Midlothian can find a way back in the second half. It doesn't look like it so far, to be honest. Poor pass completion as well. But let's see what happens in the second half. I mean, it looks like it's still Dragons. It looks like it's still Dragons who's in control of the game. Giggs coming forward. I mean, can it be? Maybe it'll be a fitness thing. Maybe we'll see the last 22 minutes. We'll see something from Midlothian. We'll see them coming forward and doing something. There was Pensa with a good chance, but no goal. But there is Hofland. If the strikers won't score, then Hofland's going to have to do it. They've got 10 minutes left to get that 1 point, to get the goal and get the point. But they do need to prevent Dragons from scoring, obviously. And Dragons are still creating by far the majority of the chances. Kalatze with the header, and it's the final whistle has blown. Very, very strong performance from Dragons. As mentioned, when they turn up, when they play well, they can beat pretty much anyone. And they did tonight. And even with a man down, they still beaten Midlothian, who are failing to create. Again, I don't know what the reason is behind it. I don't look into the detail of the tactics of each manager, but something has definitely gone wrong in that Midlothian setup. They obviously still have the last game of the season at home to Ardsley. They can still decide everything for themselves, but they are on 38 points, so there will definitely be something to play for in the last round. In terms of the action zones, they don't have any possession. I mean, that's one thing. That's a problem. If you don't have the ball, then you need to be very clinical, and if you aren't, then you're going to lose. So that's got to be a concern and something that the manager and the assistant will probably have to have a look at before the last game of the season. Dragon Destroyers, strong performance. Second half, nothing else really happened there. They just continued to be solid and dominated pretty much in terms of the possession, the pass completion, winning slightly more headers, and everyone putting in a good shift. Palmerthinaikos and Kalatze obviously doing brilliantly in that DMC role up against Arik back, who probably find himself a little bit isolated there, and Midlothian, just not doing enough to get the ball up to the 3 strikers. As mentioned before, the 2 the three DMCs, the overweight of DMCs against AMCs has proven to be a bit of an issue for people to find a solution to. Whether that's just to fire in some more AMCs and hope for the best, or maybe go wide, or whatever it is. I'm not sure what the solution is, but it looks as if they've struggled a little bit here with the three DMCs in the first half, and then obviously the two in the second. He did play up to about a 7 back. Kevin Hoffland gets man of the match with that goal. A lot more passing in the second half, so a lot more action. Christian Vieri getting a 6 and Penza getting an assist and an 8. A little bit generous maybe. Lots of passes. Not so good in the air in Penza. I'm not sure if that was if he should have really been challenging so much in the air, but or if that should have been Vieri instead maybe. Difficult obviously to instruct that prior to the game. Dulage seems to have run out of steam. Roberto Carlos as well. They had very good performances early on in the season. Gattuso not doing brilliantly either, and Klombe only getting a 6 despite. Oh, it's because he's not winning that many tackles. But no key passes, as you can see here. There's yeah. I mean the passing is an issue. Yeah, and there's no key passes. There's not a lot of possession, so I don't know where these passes are coming from, or going to, or going astray, or whatever. Disappointing for Midlothian. They've been waiting for that, as mentioned, for that red Q next to their name, and they're just not getting it. And with performances like this, I mean, both I believe they stay on 38, so both Aster and Chudley can overtake them in the last round. They play Ardsley Celtic at home. If they play like this, then they are probably going to lose, and both those sides could move past them. But let's not jump to conclusions here. But a better performance. I mean, I'm not saying anything the manager doesn't know. A much better performance is obviously needed if he's going to get something against Ardsley. Speaking of Ardsley, we've got them and Palmerthinaikos coming up next. Obviously, both teams with a lot to play for this evening. We'll summarize that because I've lost track. We'll summarize that at the end of the evening, what exactly has been decided and what hasn't when we get there. Ardsley Celtic. I think he said he was down. I think Hodgie said he was down to a 6th choice central defender, which is Okoronkwo, which is not a bad 6th choice central defender. I can't remember who the other ones are, but they're all out, either suspended or injured. I think there's Milito, there's Lauerson, there's Kufre. Who's the last one? I think there's one more. Is it Saeed? Does he count Saeed maybe as a DC? I don't know. Either way, Okoronkwo apparently 6th choice central defender. He's in there. Stankovic is in there next to Patrick Vieira. Then he's got the more familiar faces further up the pitch. He's got Candela, he's got Donati, Sauri, Recoba, Nikiforenko, and Morientes up top. Ardsley Celtic sitting on 40 points at the moment, 2 points ahead of Palmerthinaikos. Obviously, a win for Palmerthinaikos here will put them on 41 above Ardsley. They also have a better goal difference. Ardsley could get on to 43, which would be just 1 point behind Bolton. Yeah, there's lots still to play for here tonight. Palmerthinaikos, obviously, from their perspective, it's all about winning. With Chudley failing to pick up all 3 points here, Palmerthinaikos can secure, just like Midlothian, can secure their playoff spot tonight. So we'll see if that is going to happen. Palmerthinaikos are going with exactly the same formation, exactly the same lineup that saw them beat Dragons 1-0 last time. So it's Henri in front of Cole and Ebesand. We've got Nedved in central midfield. Jagatas and Salihamidzic on the wings. We've got Pauve and Ambrosini in front of Cannavaro and Udese at the back. Cannavaro and Udese are obviously one of the strongest defensive partnerships in the league. Palmerthinaikos only conceding 27 goals, similar to, I think, a little bit more, maybe a handful more than Bolton and Vallen. Oh, well, not Vallen after tonight, obviously. Maybe a handful more than Bolton, but still a very, very strong defensive lineup. And Dida in goal, he's had his ups and downs, but he has been relatively solid considering that. 27 conceded and 24 is definitely not a bad return. All to play for both sides. Ardsley can, in theory, still get second place. Palmerthinaikos can secure their playoff spot tonight. Let's see what happens as we kick this one off. A lovely Palmerthinaikos pink and black outfit here as well, obviously. Palermo inspired, clearly. We're going to get any goals though. Oh, we're only 13 minutes. I thought we were much further in. Anyway, 20 minutes in, no goals yet. A couple of chances for both sides. Ash yet, nothing on the scoreboard. Donati there with a good chance. I think it was. 4 minutes of added time. Okay, well, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Palmerthinaikos not really getting anywhere in terms of chances created or goals scored, and Ardsley being a little bit wasteful. They do have a lot more possession, and a lot of the ball has been down in the Palmerthinaikos end of the park. So yeah, solid-ish first half performance from Ardsley. Perhaps not the perhaps not the cracker at the end of the evening to set off the fireworks before we head into the last round next week. But yeah, 0-0. It's fair enough, I guess. Decent enough result for both sides. I mean, it doesn't really secure anything, but it's not too bad either. Patrick Vieira not doing particularly well. Gets a 6. I'm not sure why. Low pass percentage maybe. Donati had a shot which was saved. Okoronkwo doing an okay job. He gets a 7. Maybe win a few more tackles, ideally, but not too bad. Yeah, not really that much else to say. So to be honest, and down the other end, Dieter doing a good job in goal, and everyone else off like plodding along in holiday mode, more or less. Especially Joe Cole. That's got to be disappointing. Probably unlikely to earn him any favors with a manager, with Riquelme waiting on the bench and Nedved as well being able to play there. But yeah, no key passes either. So pass completion good, but just not very dangerous when they are passing the ball around. But we'll kick off the second half and see if things changes. We could do with a couple of goals to finish the evening on, of course, and a little bit of excitement here. Otherwise, all of the excitement is going to be looking at the table in a couple of minutes. But that could obviously be interesting enough by itself. So that's an hour gone and still no goals. A couple of chances for Palmerth. Oh, there's Donati. Just as I was saying, no more goals. Donati gets his goal. That obviously puts Ardsley importantly on 43 points, 1 point behind Bolton, and still in with a shout of that second place. Considering how long they were in first early on this season, that will be some turnaround for Ardsley after the dip in form that they've had. Can Palmerthinaikos find a way back in though? They've had 1 or 2 chances in the second half, but it's been slim pickings for them. But let's see. Maybe no, they could not find a way back in. So it's Ardsley who secure the playoff spot and actually puts himself in contention for a second place finish. Lots of offsides, decent pass completion, few tackles, equal in the air. Not much to report in terms of that. Obviously wasteful for Palmerthinaikos, 6 shots on, well, with only 1 on target. Very poor from them. Possession wise, RC Celtic edging it. I'll take a lot of good form into the last game of the season with a big objective for them to get that second place if Bolton fails to win at Churchtown. That's a big one for Ardsley. So Hodgie will be looking forward to that. It'll be slightly nervous for Palmerthinaikos. We'll get to that in a second. They stay on 38 points, obviously. Let's have a look at the individual performance of the Ardsley Celtic players. Landro doing a decent job in goal. He had saved 1 shot, I guess. That's okay. Candela, Okoronkwo, that's promising for Ardsley that Okoronkwo are able to put in a good shift next to John Terry. Stankovic comes in as well as the backup for Said and does a brilliant job. Patrick Vieira somehow only gets a 7. That's a bit unusual for him, I think. It's very strange when you see his performance. I mean, not the best pass percentage, but he's done pretty well. Donati only gets a 7 as well. He even scores a goal, and Stankovic gets the 9. It's a little bit strange, the distribution of the scores here, but Ardsley early on the season known for their ability to grind out 1-0 wins, and that's what they've done tonight. They've ground out another 1-0 victory. If they can take this form into the playoffs, then they're going to be a tricky side to face for a lot of teams. We saw how important it is not conceding with Bolton, obviously champing Vallen last year. So yeah, it's looking strong for Ardsley. Palmerthinaikos, Dieter gets a man of the match award. Joe Cole and Ebisand in that AMC partnership did not work tonight, unfortunately for them. They're up against Stankovic and Vieira, just a bridge too far for these two guys. Thierry Henry gets a 7, Nedved a 7 as well. He has 3 shots, only 1 on target though, and the rest of them kind of just plodding along. Udesa and Cannavaro doing a decent job at the back, especially Cannavaro picks up an 8. Not entirely sure why he gets such a better score than Udese, considering the similarity of their performances, missing 10 passes and missing a couple of tackles. But anyway, not everything has to make sense in Champ, obviously. Salihamidzic and Jagatas on the wings didn't really get anything out of it. Ambrosini did okay. Pauve, not a great game for him. It's Ardsley back to their best, and it's Palmerthinaikos with another unfortunate 1-0 defeat, perhaps mainly due to some wastefulness amongst the AMCs and strikers in this one. Anyway, the moment we've all been waiting for this evening, that this has been leading up to, is the game being awkward. There we go. Is to have a look at the league table. One red Q handed out tonight that goes to Ardsley Celtic. Churchtown obviously win the regular season. They are 5 points ahead of Bolton Phoenix. Can't be caught. Churchtown play Bolton in the last round. Can get themselves to 52 points, which would be lovely for them. But more importantly, that would prove a big problem for Bolton Phoenix if Ardsley Celtic are to beat Midlothian. Further down, we do have Vallen United on 40 points, which is good news for them that they are on 40 points. The bad news is that Aster are on 37 and can, in theory, go equal on points with them, but their goal difference is so far ahead, plus 15, that there's probably no real chance of them dropping out of the playoffs. So although there isn't a mathematical queue next to Vallen, I think we can pencil one in, because that's going to be a tricky one to overcome for Aster. They will have to score about 100 goals against well, not 100, they will have to score many goals against Chudley and hope that Vallen concede many goals against Palmerthinaikos, which may happen, but we'll see. We'll see in the last round, obviously. Moving down to Palmerthinaikos. Palmerthinaikos are on 38 points. They take on Vallen at home in the last game. Vallen, of course, can't really do anything upwards on the table. They can maybe reach third in theory, but they can't get to second. Palmerthinaikos, however, can move up to fourth. Palmerthinaikos also can move down to seventh or eighth if results don't go their way. They will have to beat Vallen in the last round to be 100% sure, obviously. We'll see what the other results throw up, but yeah, it's a tricky time for Palmerthinaikos, and it's a tricky time for Midlothian. Midlothian, with the last game of the season, they play Ardsley Celtic at home, so I guess they've got the home advantage going for them. They need points, because behind them they have Aster and Chudley, and the thing about Aster and Chudley is that they play each other. Which obviously means that if they draw 1-1, so we won't do this as the first game of the evening, if they draw 1-1, or then, Midlothian have to lose big, and then, I guess the goal difference is worse than Aster, so they could in theory still drop down, but that is the real crunch point of the action for next Sunday, is that Aster take on Chudley at home. Aster obviously in great form, Chudley a little bit stuttery, but they have shown some real glimmers here of a strong side. Leach and so they have good players in there. Aster now with a newfound form of Nicolay. This is really going to be a cracking round of action. Palmerthinaikos, Midlothian, Aster, Chudley within 2 points and all to play for. It's difficult to say. I think Palmer's rule of 40 will probably apply. Chudley could squeeze in on 39, I guess, and then maybe 38. Yeah, a lot of things could happen. That's all I'm trying to say. Really, a lot of things could happen in the last round. You couldn't have set it up any better, to be completely honest. If we move further down the table, we have Sloths. Sloth in their last round will play Hoddesdon Hornets. Sloth can go to 36 points. Hornets obviously can go to 32. We have got Dragons. Did we speak about Dragons already? Dragons play BTEC. And finally, I think we've got Hools playing Swindon. Yes, I think it's Hools against Swindon in the last game. So the top team, so we've got first against second, we've got third against sixth, we've got fourth against fifth, I think. Yes, fourth against fifth and seventh against eighth. So all of the top 8 teams play each other in the last round, and yeah, it literally could not be more, well, it kind of could, but it almost couldn't be more exciting. Let's leave it at that. I'll leave you with a quick overview of the results this evening. Some big wins, a couple of upsets, very interesting results, making it all delightfully entertaining for the final evening of the season, which will be live if everything goes to plan, and next Sunday from 9 p.m. I'll leave you with the fixtures. They will obviously also be up online at some point during Monday. Packs will be out as well. Make sure you get your squads in nice and early. Think things through. There's a lot on the line for a lot of managers for next Sunday, so I wish you all the best of luck. And with that, thank you very much for joining me this evening, and good luck for Sunday.